Legendary Pokemon are some of the most menacing and destructive Pokemon in the entire world. And then Scarlet and Violet came around and turned them into a bike. But what if I told you that this oversized lizard could take over regions when it falls into the wrong hands? Well, that concept is what Pokemon Dreamstone Mysteries, a ROM hack that just came out, tries to show you. You'll be exploring through the brand new Cormoria region with its very own evil team called Somber, interesting and never before seen characters, and an awesome questing system that will keep you going for hours on end. It has so many other features we'll be talking about, but the main one I was interested in was the increased shiny odds. And it's been quite a while since I've played through a Pokemon game with only shiny Pokemon, so that's what we'll be doing today. So join me as I walk from left to right in grass patches for hours on end, just so these sparkly dopamine hitting creatures can beat Pokemon Dreamstone Mysteries. The game starts off by greeting you with Professor Tennibris, the head of the Tennibris Laboratory, which we are going to apply for as a research assistant. They have overviewed my application and my resume seemed to be lacking, but they believe in inner potential, not words on a page, so despite being underwhelming now, they're still going to take me on. In this lab, they specialize in Pokemon psychology and their subconsciousness, like what goes on in their minds and where does their power and energy come from. You then get to insert your photograph as part of your identification, and I decided to go with Ethan, or as most people know him, Gail. Our next instructions are to come to the lab as fast as possible so we can pick our starter Pokemon, so we travel to this entire new land, go to sleep, and wake up the next morning with some very unfortunate news. The TV states that the famous Professor Tennibris has gone missing. This makes my mom incredibly worried because this is our first day here and my employer is already gone. How are we supposed to progress from here? Well, the only thing we can really do is go and check up on the lab. But I wanted to check out some of Dreamstone's features first, like the quest list, which can be very useful if you're stuck. Just check up on it and it should tell you where to go next. For example, we needed to head over to our room to get the lab package. Once I put it away in my bag, I also checked out my PC to find a free potion and an eternal candy, which can make grinding obsolete, but I won't be using it for the majority of my playthrough, as I'll be in dire need of EVs on my Pokemon if I want to get through this entire challenge. There's also a Gimmighoul doll that can either give you max money or max master balls, which I also didn't touch. However, what I did touch was the new and improved menu. There are so many pages here with things like followers, quick escape, your choice of difficulty level, your level cap, and even a way to speed up battles in case you want things to go faster. With all of this new information absorbed in my brain, I headed to the lab to see what was going on. Here we get greeted by a man named Rue. Turns out he's the assistant of the professor, and currently this entire place is a mess. But he's still going to try and set me out on my journey. However, he also mentions my welcoming package. He tells me that my one is actually evidence for the police because they sent me the wrong one, so he switches it out for the correct one, which includes the Pokédex, 5 Pokeballs, and a town map. After this, we get assigned our first mission, which is going to the nearest Pokemart in Fenilal Town, where we need to pick up some supplies for the lab. But we'll have to travel through the treacherous Route 1. So a starter Pokemon is necessary here if we don't want to get hurt. With the professor gone, usual starters are unfortunately not available, so we just need to search throughout the lab to see if we can find some Pokemon that way. Interestingly enough, there is still 3 options in Gothita, Timber, and Galarian Zigzagoon. I'm a very big fan of the last one, so I picked him. When I tried to put his Pokeball away, however, a shimmering light started to flash. Here I could choose if it was a trick of the lighting or if it was actually glittering. I went with the latter, which turned my Zigzagoon into a shiny one, and that's when I knew this was going to be a shiny only journey, because Obstagoon ended up being my very first shiny Pokemon in Sword and Shield. I still have it to this day, and it also helps that I'm a big fan of its shiny colors. A lot of people don't like it, but I think the over-the-top cyan and pink looks really good on this beauty. After this, I head outside and give the box with evidence to some detectives who are investigating the professor's case. However, there isn't any evidence inside once they open it up, just an experience shared that they hand to me. They thank me for our help anyway, which allows us to move on to route number 1, where an unreachable statue caught my eye. Turns out these are pretty significant later on, but for now we're just going to have to wait until we can actually reach one. Further along the path, we find a house with a man that is in distress inside. His Azrael is poisoned and can die at any moment, so he needs us to find a Pecha Berry as fast as possible. I head out straight away to look for one and reach Fenilal small town shortly after. There's not all that much to see here, just a couple of houses with people living in them, and a drift blimp that will eventually be able to carry me throughout the entire region, replacing the Fly HM. But we don't have permission to use them yet. So instead, I went to heal up at the Pokemon Center, where I got a free heal pass which I can trade in with Nurse Joy on any routes to heal up my Pokemon, which basically saves you a trip to the Pokemon Center. After this, I go back to the Pokemart to pick up the supplies we need, but they've already been picked up by someone else over a week ago, which is very weird and suspicious. So now we have to go back to the lab so we can report this. Once we arrive and relay everything to the investigators and Rue, we learned that that package had something very special inside. A Dreamstone. There are only 3 of them in all of Cormoria, and the missing professor was one of the leading experts on them. They even have a machine here called the Dreamalizer, which is used to study the dreams of sleeping Pokemon, but it can only be powered by one of those stones, which themselves are powerful reserves of subconscious Pokemon energy, and power like that in the wrong hands could cause some major catastrophes. So now finding the professor and the Dreamstone are on our top priority list, and one of the detectives can't shake the hunch that the other Dreamstones could give us a clue as to their whereabouts. So while they track down the professor, we'll be tracking down the Dreamstone so they can then examine it for clues. But Rue doesn't think we're up to the task since this is only our first day and we don't know the region at all. But the detectives remind him that we're our only hope. The rest of the lab has work to do. So after a lot of hesitating, Rue finally gives in and says that he'll be counting on us. But moments later, a kid walks in and says that he overheard the entire thing and is protesting against it. He says that a kid like me can't handle a job like this and says that they should let him handle the Dreamstones because he's this year's ace rookie from the Detective Academy. And to prove it, he's going to beat me right here and now in a Pokemon battle. Currently, he only has a Charcadet, which might be higher level than my Zigzagoon, but after I use a couple of Leers, we can take it down with even more tackles. Once our fight is over, we learn that his name is Cola, and he isn't going to let this setback stop him. He will find the Dreamstone before I do. He promises that to his detectives. So now we'll be racing against our new rival Cola to show him that we are better. We also get the location of the nearest Dreamstone, which should be at Mount Ceram, which is further east from Fenilal town. So we head out and try to head through a cave, but it's being blocked off by a hiker. He says that he found a strange rock in the cave south of town, but a small pink Pokemon took it away and saw it going to Route 2, and he isn't going to let us through until we bring it back to him. So I make my way over to Route 2 where we pick up some Pecha berries. With those, I can complete the Azurill quest by healing it back up, and as a reward, we get to pick between the Shiny and Catching Charm. Shiny is obviously the only way to go here, so hopefully we'll be running into some sparkling Pokemon soon. After this, I head back to Route 2 where we find a Clefairy heading into the Vine Caverns. We follow it down there, trap it into a corner, and beat it up. It then runs off and drops a strange rock which we bring back to the hiker. However, the Clefairy comes back up to us and steals the rock from his hands again, only this time the hiker asks the Clefairy to come with him on his journey, to which it gladly agrees. We learn that this man's name is Breach. With that, they'll be heading off to explore the mountains, and hopefully we'll be seeing them again soon. But I was ready for something else, namely a shiny Pokemon. I needed that dopamine hit. So I started running from left to right in the Fenilal tunnel. There are quite a lot of useful Pokemon available here. Teddiursa, Meditite, Tinkatink, and Noibat. Honestly, I would not have been mad with any of them. That's why I started hunting here in the first place. I didn't exactly count how many encounters I did, but I'd say it was in the ballpark of 500 before this beauty showed up. Yeah, I'm incredibly happy with this green cute little bat. It might have not been the most useful out of the encounters, but it definitely has the best shiny in my opinion. But with an E- in special attack, he's definitely not going to hit too hard. However, he does have Infiltrator which can pass through light screens, so I'll take that as a pretty useful ability. Zigzagoon on the other hand had a plus special attack minus speed nature with Gluttony as its ability, which is just terrible. I then caved through the rest of the tunnel until I ran into Breach again, who was having an altercation with the evil team Somber. The grunt we see at work here is called Gabrielle and wants to steal his Clefairy because it's apparently holding a Dreamstone. We step in to try and defuse the situation, but this just leads us to a battle, with her Zora fainting to a couple of snarls from Zigzagoon. Gabriella then walks away in anger, saying that he can keep his stupid Clefairy, and she'll definitely be remembering my face as we'll regret messing with Team Somber. As a reward, Breach hands me the stone that Clefairy was holding, which turned out to be a a regular Everstone, not a Dreamstone at all. With one last thank you, we head through the rest of the tunnel until we reach the other side, which led us to Gas Tree City. And there's immediately a commotion going on here as a skitty runs away from her trainer, and now we need to go and find it. After chasing it around town, it kept on hiding in trees. And once I found it in the third tree, it headed back to its trainer. And as a reward, we got our very first HM, and no, it's not Cut or anything else you may expect. It's actually Splash, the most useless move in all of Pokemon, but here it's actually pretty good because you can use it to skip over rocks that block your path. But we won't be able to use it until we get our first gym badge, which is located right here in town. But as I try to walk through the door, Skola comes walking out all smug because he's already acquired it before me. With his confidence boost, he's pretty sure that he can take me down now, so we battle right here and now. He's now added a Yamper to his squad, but this little dog didn't help him out too much because my Zigzagoon has the devastating move Headbutt that can flinch anything if we go first. This ended up happening twice in this fight, first against Yamper, which allowed me to take it out quite easily, and Charcadet was just the same as last time. Weak, frail, and in the end, defeated. Even though we won this fight, I wasn't confident in my Pokemon's ability to be able to take on the next gym. So I went back out to the outskirts of the tunnels here in search of my next shiny victim. Again, quite a few useful options here with Swablu, Pineco, Mareep, and Lillipup, and if I had to choose, I'd probably go for Swablu, which could become my Mega Pokemon. But that didn't end up happening. Instead, we got a different Mega Pokemon that loves to shock its opponents with its pink wool. I'm talking about everybody's favorite sheep-like Pokemon, Mareep. Definitely not the best electric type Pokemon since it's rather slow compared to other electric types, but once we get access to Mega Evolution, its special attack will be able to blast through planets. This woolly friend showed up faster than Noibat, so I would say it took me around 250 to 300 encounters. After this, I went back to the gym, but saw that the leader was nowhere to be found. Apparently, he was mad that he lost to some kid, and now he's gone back into the tunnels to train, so if we want to find him, we better go there too. In a little side cave, we see him training his Pokemon by letting them beat up rocks. When we walk up to him, he seems very mad and ready to crush me right in front of him. His stone doesn't scare me. If my rival can get this badge, we can do it too. Let's get started. He specializes in the rock typing, just like 90% of the other first gym leaders. His lead is a Rockruff that can only hit one rock throw on my Zigzagoon while I spam Snarls to take it out. He also wasted his only potion on this little dog, so now he doesn't have any healing for the rest of the fight. Next up was his Alolan Geodude, who used Charge to up his special defense and also boosted the power of his Spark attack, allowing me to one-shot it after I hit it with 2 Snarls. After this, I brought in Noibat, who could confuse it with Supersonic and then take it out with Absorb after it hit itself in its confusion. His last team member was the mighty Minior. In this matchup, we got incredibly lucky, with his Confuse Ray confusing my Mareep, but me never hitting myself in my confusion. On top of this, it also missed one of its rollouts, which allowed my Mareep to survive and take it down with 3 Thunder Shocks. This wins us the battle, and Inger presents me with the King Badge. But we also get a rare shard as a bonus goodie, which we should bring to the ancient statue in the middle of town if we want to see what it's supposed to do. And once I arrive there, an old woman notices my shards and tells me to come up. She turns out to be an archaeologist that's studying these rare statues, and states that we can use these shards to max out one of our Pokemon's IVs. But we have to be careful because every shard only has 1 use, which means we need to think long and hard about which stat on which Pokemon we want to become stronger. Then, just as I was about to try it out, a guy uses Rock Slide with his Bergmite and breaks the statue. This makes the archaeologist incredibly mad, and even though they said sorry, it doesn't really matter. The statue is broken, and now we have to find new ones. But she's too old to go on a big scavenger hunt, so instead she gives me the Archaeolens, which we need to use to scan 10 different statues. Once we've done that, we can come back to her for a reward, but they are scattered all over the region, so this might take a very long time. Once that was done, I used the Splash TM for the very first time to skip over a pond and get myself the TM for Trailblaze, which can make my Mareep quite a lot better by boosting its speed. Then I used Splash even more on Route 4 to unlock the rest of the route, where we even fought a trainer with a shiny Chinchou. I don't know why, but this awakened some kind of rivalry in me. I am the only one that should be using shiny Pokemon, so I defeated it quite quickly and left him in the dust. I also helped out a cook that needed a raspberry for one of his recipes, which gave me the Shell Bell, a very useful healing item just like leftovers. As I try to make it to our next checkpoint, the road is blocked off by some Team Somber members who say that they're construction workers and that we need to leave them alone. Once we refuse, they attack me 2-on-1, which we still end up winning. This forces them back and allows us to move forward to the Ceram base camp, where we found our first out of 10 statues. I immediately used my rare shard as well to max out my Noibat's special attack, which made it go up by like 4 points for now. But in the long run, this is going to make a huge difference. There's also a local gym here, but the leader has gone to the supply depot because there's some kind of commotion out there. We're a curious little lads, so of course we want to check it out too, but first I need to go and see what the rest of the town is about. Turns out there was a grandma and her Altaria living here, so I stole one of its pretty feathers and used it on the sleeping grandma's nose to make her sneeze like 10 times in a row. I then very sneakily left her house, picked up a free King's Rock, and made my way to the supply depot, which turned out to be taken over by Team Somber grunts. So I started beating them up one by one, which allowed my Mareep to evolve into Fluffy. And I'm not gonna lie, I wish it would turn yellow just like Mareep turns pink, but despite being an underwhelming shiny, it's still going to be a nice power upgrade, which we will definitely need in the fight against their admin Moxy together with the local gym leader. She's been trying to protect her base but hasn't been successful, and we have to take them down, otherwise they steal all of our supplies, which will leave the villagers with nothing. So while our friend the gym leader takes on Moxy, we'll be taking on a familiar face in Gabriella, the one that we defeated back in the tunnel, and she can't wait to get revenge on me and my team. And yeah, that definitely didn't happen, cause her Zora and Baltoy both get destroyed by my Zigzagoon snarls. On the other hand, Ariana the gym leader also defeats Moxy, who then in turn scolds at Gabrielle for being too weak. With all of their Pokemon KO'd, they're forced to leave, and now that the rest of the base is safe, me and Ariana can start talking. We explained to her that Team Somber probably has something to do with the disappearance of the professor, and that they're after the Dreamstone on top of Mount Ceram. If they somehow manage to get their hands on it, that would be terrible for the rest of the region, but Ariana can't let me go up the mountain like this. We need to get our gym badge first, so that we can prove that we're strong enough to bring them down. And at this point, I didn't think I was strong enough either, so I headed back to Route 4 to save a kid from a Jupiter, and also started to grind up the rest of my team to the level cap. While doing this, I didn't only run into 1, but 2 shiny Pokemon in the span of like 10 minutes. It didn't take long at all, and they ended up being one of the most forgettable Pokemon ever, Petalil, but also the regional bug of Pokemon Sword and Shield, Blibbug, that I barely even spotted. Luckily, once it evolved into Dottler, its shiny turned out to be way better. That doesn't take away that these two are not the most exciting Pokemon, however, but a shiny is a shiny. I will take it. Let's take these two to the next gym. We couldn't just walk up to Ariana and battle her though. We needed an appointment. So first we had to go upstairs to get an appointment letter, then we had to go downstairs to get it signed, which was only possible by bribing one of the managers. With this letter in hand and my pockets empty, I then went over to Ariana, who would gladly accept my challenge. Her main typing is Fire, as you can see from the starting Hisui and Growlithe. Not a great matchup for my Noibat, so I immediately swap out into Dottler to sack it. Once it was down, I could safely swap in Fluffy, who would get burned by a Flame Wheel. Absolutely terrible. Then I'd start spamming Thunder Shocks, but just when I was about to take it out, she healed it up with a potion and took me down with yet another Flame Wheel. I never expected to have problems with a dog, but here we are. We were, however, able to bring it in a range so that my Zigzagoon could finish it off with one more Snarl, but she still had 2 Pokemon left, one of them being Sizzlipede. So I swapped out into Noibat and blew it away with 2 wing attacks, which led her into her final Pokemon, Paldean Tauros. A very strong opponent so early into the game, and it became even worse when it started setting up 2 workups. So I used Supersonic to confuse it and then hit it with 2 gusts. It was then able to hit me with a double kick, which didn't even take me out with the 2 attack boosts. So then Noibat showed off that you don't have to be big to make it work. With the Cinder Badge and another rare shard in hand, I headed over to Mount Ceram. Once I start walking up the mountain, Cola tells me to come over because he's spying on some grunts. They're not supposed to let anybody up this mountain, otherwise they will get punished just like Gabriella did for losing to me. They then run off and Cola goes after them, but we can't stay behind and follow in all of their footsteps. A little further up, we run into Gabrielle herself, who's staring down and telling herself that she's just trying to do her best and actually doesn't even want to steal other trainers' Pokemon. After learning about her character a little bit more, I start to feel sympathetic, but she doesn't want to accept my help. So instead, I start to hike further up the mountain and eventually even go inside of it. That's where I save a traveling merchant called Greta from an attacking Venipede and Sizzlipede centipede. As a reward, we get the pick out of 3 gems, and I decide to go with the psychic type one that never got used. But I do have the feeling this won't be the last time we see her. After this, we run into Cola battling the 2 grunts we saw earlier, but his team just got wiped because he didn't want us to help him out. Sad and defeated, he heads back down the mountain to heal up his team, so now it's just us left to save the day. Wiping the floor with these grunts was a piece of cake for me, and even evolved my Zigzagoon into Linoon. Now that the way is cleared, we walk to the very top where Moxy calls us over, so we can see the Dreamstone in all of its glory. He then asks me why I'm trying to sabotage their organization, to which we answer that we're looking for the professor. He says that this explains it all, but the professor has apparently gone missing because she discovered something incredible, that the stone behind him contains memories of hundreds of generations of Pokemon that even go back to prehistoric times. So now he wants to reverse the process by reviving those memories so that the powerful Pokemon that once roamed Cormoria could be brought back to do their bidding. If Team Somber gets their hands on this kind of power, they could never be stopped. And they're not going to let some silly little kid ruin their plans any longer. So I guess it's time for us to face off against Moxy, head admin of the Team Somber research wing. He leads off with an Impidimp that gets sleep powdered by my Petalil. I then try to take it out with a Mega Drain, but he immediately swaps out into Murkrow after I hit one of them. This then forces me out into Fluffy, who can easily win this matchup by shocking down the bird. Impidimp comes out again, so I try to use Petalil to finish it off, but that didn't end up working since he healed it up with a super potion and it snapped out of its sleep quite quickly. 2 bites later and my plant became a vegan dinner. I then brought in Noibat, who did get confused by Flatter but didn't hit itself a single time, so 2 wing attacks later and he's onto his last Pokemon, Galarian Slowpoke. Dottler is the perfect counter for this, so after setting up a light screen, we just spam Struggle Bug until the cows come home. They use their milk to finish off Moxy. Not that this loss matters because he still orders Gabrielle to go and get the Dreamstone, but once she touches it, it traps her in and so she ends up being stuck. An earthquake followed by a thunderstorm then happens, and with all of this voodoo shenanigans going on, Moxy and the rest of his goons flee the scene, leaving Gabriella behind. But we know that deep down she isn't a bad person, so we try to pull her off, but instead everything goes black and we wake up in some kind of desert. We find Gabrielle nearby, but her leg seems to be totally broken. She still can't believe her own team left her behind, and on top of this, we have no idea where we are, so if we manage to find a way out of here, we have to come back for her so the both of us can leave together. As I start walking around the place, I find Pokemon that have never been seen before, or at least not in over 1,000,000 years, like Lileep, Shieldon, and Tyrant. I also ended up finding a very weird ancient stone, and further up in the desert, the Dreamstone was just laying there waiting for us to go back. I know Gabrielle is in trouble, but I don't want to leave this place without a shiny fossil Pokemon of my own, because if you've been watching the channel for some time, you know I love my prehistoric dinosaurs. The GOAT for me would be Tyrant, but I'll take anything at this point. So I started running around everywhere until my entire shoes were filled up with sand. This was by far the longest hunt until this point, stretching over multiple hours, with at least 1,500 encounters out of the way until I found this beautiful blue dinosaur. I was over the moon because Tyrantrum is one of my favorite shiny Pokemon of all time, so adding it to my team was a dream come true. It did unfortunately have a minus attack nature, but his strong jaw ability would definitely make up for this. With that out of the way, I brought Gabriella to the Dreamstone, which in turn teleported us back to the mainland. More specifically, Gail Crest City. And while Gabrielle is thankful that we saved her, she still thinks we're enemies, and will be reporting back to Team Somber for now, even though she owes me one. I then start exploring the city myself and end up running into Rue and the 2 detectives. We explain everything that happened to them, but they're just glad that we're safe. They had no idea that something like this could even happen with the Dreamstones, and now they're starting to think that we probably got taken back into the past. So now they have to head back to the lab to do some more research. But the detectives have also uncovered a new lead on Professor Tennibris' whereabouts. Apparently she was spotted last in Silver Sun City. But there's one problem: Team Somber's hideout is also confirmed to be there. So if they're both in the same location, things could get really ugly. If you want to go there, however, we first need to head to the Detective Academy, where we can talk to our rival Cola about the mission. So without any hesitation, I head inside and buy myself a 1-day student ID. This gives us access to the rest of the facilities, where we run into Breach and his Clefairy, who are learning more about Pokemon battling, as they want to be able to defend themselves if they run into Team Somber again. We also get ourselves a free focus band from them, and shortly after we run into than to Cola. He seems to be pretty disappointed in himself. Yes, he graduated here as the ace rookie, but after losing to Team Somber and seeing me battle, he knows that's not enough. He needs to be stronger than the criminals he faces. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. He also tells me that if we want to reach Silver Sun City, we need to defeat the local gym leader first to get the HM for Rock Smash. But I really wanted to check out the rest of the city first. So I completed a side quest by playing the hero for a rich family. You see, a thief stole one of their pearl necklaces and I beat him up and brought it back to them. And as my reward, I got a measly 500 Poké Dollars. And that, folks, is how the rich stay rich. By being incredibly stingy, even if people help them out. I also picked up a free scope lens, which pairs very well with my Linoon's high critting Night Slash. Last thing I picked up was an expert build from the back rooms, and then I went over to the local gym to take it on. The challenge here was that I had to battle students from the academy. Once all of them had been defeated, however, I'd reached the final room where my opponent was no one else than Cola. He explains that the top ace rookie always needs to be the gym leader for a couple of fights, but they're forced to use a normal type team. But because I'm an exception, he's actually going to use his regular team to try and stop me from getting this badge at all. Cheating aside, I'm still not scared of him and start off with my Fluffy against this Yamper. I start spamming Trailblazes to boost my speed and even bring it down to like 1 HP. At this point, he's forced to use a super potion, and after I hit 2 more Trailblazes to bring it down to about half health, he roars me out into Dottler. I then use a combination of Struggle Book and Confusion to bring down the Electric Pupper, which makes him send out his new Pokemon, Duot. I go into Petalil myself to hit a massive Giga Drain, but get hit with a Fury Cutter. Despite this healing me back up to full, I know its power is going to be doubled next turn, so I swap out into Noibat and take it down with Wing Attack. He then sent out Kirlia, who we put to sleep yet again with Petalil, who then proceeds to drain it from its life energy, and last up is Cerilech, who can't stand up to 2 Night Slashes from my Linoon. After this, we get our Clue Badge and Rare Shard, and with yet another loss under his belt, Cola leaves. We get the HM for Rock Smash, and take a ride with Doug Trio, who moves us underground, where we can skip over some rocks to get a Casting Rod. Fishing in Pokemon is normally always the same, but in Dreamstone Mysteries, it's been very much reworked. You can see the silhouette of the Pokemon you're hooking, and then you need to keep your green bar inside of said silhouette, which you can do by pressing A repeatedly. Once your reeling meter is full, you will fish up the Pokemon, and you'll even have a chance at fishing of an item as well, which in my opinion is a very cool and innovative system to the fishing formula. I then broke some rocks on Route 5, which allowed me to reach another statue, which ended up giving my Linoon max attack IVs. I also ran into the wandering merchant Greta again, who gave me a mysterious rock for only 5k, and the rest of this round led me into Valthorn Woods, where we beat up a bug catcher that's supposed to become gym leader and run into a Team Somber grunt who is going to report back to their base. I try to chase after him, but end up losing him quite quickly, but instead we do run into a painter's house called Arsalan. He needs new inspiration for his art and would need a black sludge to make it happen. So if you end up running into one on our journey, we need to bring it back to him. With that new objective in mind, I reached Silver Sun City, a place with so much to do, but my interests laid somewhere else: the sewers. It was pretty dangerous down here, because the moment I entered, a guy told me to go and save his wife because she's being attacked by sewer Pokemon. So I started searching around, but I didn't find her immediately. What I did find, however, was the black sludge we needed, as well as our 4th statue. This one then got used to max out my Tyrant speed. Looking back on it, definitely not the best option, but a fast T-Rex is something I'll always take, except in the new Jurassic World Rebirth. That movie was absolute ass. After this, I could save his wife from a rampaging Varoom and proceeded to bring her back to him. They told me to stop by their house if we wanted our reward, but I wanted to check out the rest of the sewers first, because there was a black market down here, but they thought we were the cops, so I couldn't shop there. Did also find an Alola mug that would eat trash that I found on the ground, and in return we would get ability pills or ability patches. I used one of those to change my Linoon's ability to Quick Feet, so that he's faster whenever he's burned, poisoned, or paralyzed. Then I tried to leave the sewers, but ended up running into another shiny. This time might be the best team member I got in this entire run: Hisuian Quillfish. I'm a huge fan of the color palette on this boy, but what made him so good was the Intimidate ability to lower my opponent's attack, and the move Fell Stinger, which has the potential to boost my own attack by 3 stages. This is also the perfect time to tell you that every single Pokemon in my runs will be named after the wonderful membership and Patreon supporters of the channel, so if that's something that interests you and you want to help me out, it is always highly appreciated. The link for it will be in the description. Now, with that out of the way, I went and brought the black sludge back to the artist, and in return, I got the TM for Facade, which would be amazing on my Linoon and would also work really well with its Quick Feet ability ability. I also stopped by the couple's house that we saved to get myself a free smuggler's emblem, which we can use to get access to the black market for cheap vitamins to boost our Pokemon stats, but also a very useful TM shop and a guy that was selling a Toxicorp that I also picked up, which will guarantee to activate my Linoon's Quick Feet and Facade. I wasn't done side questing yet though, we still needed to go to the Blind Orphanage. Here I helped out kids by giving them books of Braille, and as my reward I got a muscle band which can boost the power of my physical moves even more. After this we have a secret conversation with the detectives who are dressed up as painters. They think Team Somber must be holding the professor hostage, which is how they learned about the Dreamstones in the first place. So our next task is clear. We need to find their HQ and free the professor ASAP. We don't have any leads at the moment, so I'll be heading off to the gym leader to see if she might have any answers. After I defeated all of her trainers, it turns out she wasn't even here. She's currently doing a performance at the local theater, so as compensation we get a backstage pass which we can use to talk to her. So I go backstage into the theater, give a random woman who mistook me for a celebrity an autograph, and headed right on stage to confront Gloria. She was quite happy because this would mean a full-on show for her entire audience, and so she didn't hesitate to dim the lights and cue the music for our battle. I do get quite a bit of stage fright myself, but luckily my shiny Pokemon love to be in the spotlight and don't seem to suffer from that at all. She leads off with her Bayleaf, who sets up a Reflect that doesn't matter at all because my Linoon is able to crit the second Night Slash to take it down. Next up was her Hisuian Lilligant, who had nothing against my Dottler and kept on spamming Absorb, which did like no damage. So I spammed Confusion until its brain exploded, who led her into Galarian Linoon. You can easily see the difference between mine because this one couldn't even survive 2 Struggle Bugs. This only left her with her Ace Bird, Bombardier, ready to drop some babies. So I used Quillfish and his Intimidate to lower its attack. I then brought in my Tyrant who could bury it under a few Ancient Powers, but just as I was about to deliver the final blow, she healed up. From there on out, I lowered her attack to the max with Charms, rendering this big bird basically useless. I then sent out Fluffy, who needed one more Electro Web to get the KO and earn me not only the badge, but also the respect of the entire audience. She would love to recruit me as one of her performers, but unfortunately I am a trainer and will have to decline. Believe me, I can't dance or do anything like that anyway. However, we do get our Drama Badge and Rare Shard, and with one last applause, we disappear into the backstage, where we see Gabrielle guarding some kind of entrance. Since we saved her life last time, she decides to spill the beans. Behind her is the entire Team Somber hideout, and to return the favor, she's just going to let us in without any thought. Inside, we dismantle every grunt we can get our hands on and make it to the office of one of their bosses. They've just captured Professor Rue as well and got their hands on the blueprints from the Dreamalizer, which they will use on the second Dreamstone, which is apparently located on Mount Miro. Once we overhear this, they spot me and tell me to come over. The boss here wonders how we actually got in, and that's when Gabriella sinks to the floor. She tries to apologize to Miss Malaya, but mercy is not in her dictionary, and right there in that moment, Gabriella gets thrown off the team, which is a good thing in my opinion. Hopefully she can turn around her life. When she's sent out, Malaya comes up to me so we can be teached a lesson, but her threats don't work on me. I throw out Quillfish to face her Slowpoke, and as I try to hit that super effective bite, she swaps out into her Alolan Grimer. I don't really have a move that can easily take care of this, so I swap out into Tyrant and bury it under 2 Rock Slides. Her next Pokemon, Yanmega, is quite a big problem. With its Hypnosis, it easily puts my Fluffy to sleep and ends me off with just 2 Bug Buzzes. We were able to hit an Electro Web, but not even that was enough to save my Quillfish from its wrath, as it shares the same fate: Hypnosis, Bug Buzz, Ancient Power. Nothing on my team can outspeed, so I just have to pray for Hypnosis misses, but for some reason she clicked Ancient Power once I brought out Noibat, which I survived, and then I could kill it with one more Air Cutter. Galarian Slowpoke's tail got cut off by Night Slash from my Linoon, and finally was her Absol, who died to 5 hits of my Linoon's Pin Missile too. Melee can't believe that he just lost to yet another child and tells me that this hideout will no longer be in use and we can have our professor back. Or should I say Assistant Rue, because the actual professor is still nowhere to be found. I then take Rue back outside to the detectives who are still in their disguise, and we tell them our entire story. They're very worried about Team Somber going into the past, and are also wondering where Cola is when they need him most, because he was chasing another lead that Professor Rue gave him, so that one must have led on to nothing. No matter, the professor goes home because he needs to rest up after all of this, and the detectives tell me to go to the Miro base camp where we need to meet up with one of their associates so we can learn more about the ancient past. As the reward for our good work, they also hand me the HM for strength, which I can use to cross the zwiggojr river. As I was reaching the end of the bridge, I end up running into a familiar face. It's clearly Kola, who isn't too happy because his lead led to nowhere. And now it starts to feel like the world is telling him that he's not as good as me. And to try and make himself feel better again, he's going to take me on in yet another battle to try and disprove that. And so he throws out his Yamper, who is up against my Quillfish. You may think that a dog could easily win from a pufferfish, but what if I told you that the fish could bite back and bite even stronger than the dog? Yeah, that's what happened here. Boltund was down in just 2 of them, which led us into Duod as his next Pokemon. So I swapped in Fluffy, used Trailblaze to boost my speed, tanked a Razor Shell, and trapped it in an Electro Web, which shocked them so much that they had to bring in Scyther. This mutated Mantis used Focus Energy to waste its turn, so you already guessed what happened. 2 Electro Webs and we're on to Kirlia. That's when I could finally unleash the power of my Linoon's new Facade, but that's not the only victim he took down. Cyrilich got slashed down by his own blades as well, finishing off the battle and crushing Kola's spirit even more. And to put the nail in the coffin, my Quillfish also evolved into Overquill and Fluffy into Ampharos, which showed him not to mess with us in the future any longer. He then blames his Boltons for losing this battle and runs off. On the other side of the bridge, we see an entire swampy area, and after I beat up some of the trainers here, my Dottler evolved into Orbeetle, which reminds me of that one beautiful Deoxys Orbeetle card where he gets beamed up from into space. God, would I love to pack that one. Enough of my Pokemon card addiction. Further along the route was a very special building called the Ranger Institute, where I needed to print out an application which I could then use to complete a quiz. Once I got all of those answers correct, I would have an audience with their leader. His name is Ravine, and he goes on to explain what the Rangers do. They traverse through the entire Cormoria region, helping out people wherever they can. And he thinks we could be a perfect recruit, so he hands me a Ranger bike so we can get around faster, and then gives me my very first mission, which is to deliver a Ranger package somewhere. However, I never completed this quest. I just took the free bike and ran. As I was running away, I run into 2 grunts who are harassing Gabrielle. So I jump in, team up with her, and defeat both of them in a matter of seconds. At this moment, Gabrielle still doesn't understand why the grunts are still after her. She just wants to be left alone and go on her own journey without them interfering, which I totally understand. So if she gets into any more trouble along the road, we'll be there to help her, which will be even easier with this new evolution, Noibat into Noivern. I mean, just look at this boom blasting bat. Noivern is already a cool Pokemon, but this shiny makes it like 10 times better. With it, we'll be bursting many people's eardrums, but not Greta's, because she's giving me another item for a good price. So I pick up the Prism Scale that never got used. After this, I ran into somebody's house where we could play a very cool GameCube game. It's called Block Builder, and you need to line up these blocks to get to the top, which took me a couple of tries, but once I did it, we unlocked the swap chip that I never really found the use for. No matter, I bet it wasn't important anyway, just wanted to show off that cool little custom minigame. As it turns out, this was actually Gabrielle's house, who was standing outside, and as a thank you for helping her out so much, she even gives me a choice band. So now the many physical attackers we already have can hit even harder. After saying goodbye, I headed over the bridge and threw some stones to Wingles with a little girl. But the moment I turned the corner, I start hearing some very loud voices. Turns out we're about to reach the next city, but there seems to be some kind of power fight going on between the mayor and a group of pirates called the Quillfish Squad. The boss of this squad is clearly threatening the mayor by stating that they own the city and the mayor has absolutely no say in it. Because they're with an entire squad and pretty strong, the mayor obviously is pretty scared, so he just goes on to say that they can do whatever they want without him intervening. But I don't like blackmailing and bullying like this, so we follow him to his house and tell him that we can help him with this problem if he wants us to. He'd be incredibly happy if we could put the Quill Squad back in their place by defeating them. So happy in fact that we even receive our payment beforehand in the form of a Drifblim Pass, which we can use to fly around the entire region. Super handy, but we're not going to use it immediately. First, we need to go to their shack on the beach to take them down. As I was heading there, I took a quick stop at the casino because I really wanted to show you how amazing this custom one looks, because I've never seen the sprites for these slot machines or poker tables before and believe they were full-on created for this game. Even though I didn't spend any time here myself, I still thought it looked nice and authentic. This city's gym is also led by the water type user Janaya, but it's across a pond which we can't reach yet, as we still need to wait for our Surf HM. I then headed over to the beach, and the only reason I got into their hideout in the first place was by showing them my Overquill and telling them that I was a member. They then took me to their boss, who immediately saw through my disguise, because I mean, I don't look like a buff pirate, and they didn't really take on any new recruits in the last couple of months. That's when these big sailors all ambush me, so I start beating them up one by one until I'm face to face with their boss. He can definitely respect a strong trainer like me, but we're going to pay for what we did to his boys. That's when the menacing peg-leg pirate throws out his Lairon. So I proceed to throw out my Overquill and proceed to wipe his entire squad with the Pokemon that they love the most. Not even their anchor or own Overquill could stand up to me as I spiked through them all and made them admit defeat. We then tell the boss why we're actually here. He needs to find an agreement with the mayor so that they both can live on free terms without constantly arguing with each other and making fights happen across the entire city. He's willing to listen, but just as we're about to go and meet with the mayor, a huge explosion comes from outside. Turns out a Mega Sharpedo just sailed by the entire city and created such a huge wave that it's now fully underwater. This put an insane amount of people in danger, and there are currently 4 of them missing. So the mayor and the Quill Squad boss start arguing with each other again, accusing each other of owning the city so that they should go and save them. That's when the citizens start speaking up by saying that none of them really do anything for the city, and now that there are actual people in danger, they're still fighting. They've had it up to here with them. And even the gym leader, Janaya, agrees with their statement. So she tries to solve this by giving me the HM for Sir so I can go and save the people, while the gym leader herself goes and search for the Mega Sharpedo so he doesn't bring anybody else in danger. The mayor and Quill Squad boss, however, are going to stay here on the bridge to make sure the people here remain safe. So now that everybody's pulling their weight, I jump into the water, search every nook and cranny, and bring every citizen back safely. Everybody that was waiting here thanks me for my help, and now there's only one thing left to do: wait inside of the Pokemon Center until the tide drops. Here we have one last celebration with the mayor and the boss, who ask me for my Surf HM so they can teach it to their own Pokemon so something like this never happens again. In return, we do get our very own Mega Ring, which will eventually give my Ampharos a big boost in power. Until then, we need to move on to Route 7 and leave this place behind, but in the back of my mind, I know the bickering is over and this place will be safe. Since we've now reached a new route and it's been quite a while since I've had a shiny Pokemon join the team, I had a hunch that it was yet again time for the left to right walking simulator. Only this time, it only took me around 50 encounters to get a pretty useless shiny Pokemon, Boltund. Yes, I love dogs as much as the next person, but we already have an electric type, and this shiny just looks terrible in my opinion. Even with all of these downsides though, we still had to add it to the squad so we could safely move on to the cable car station. This cart then brought me up to the next point of interest, the Miro base camp. The moment I try to get into one of the houses, however, we bump into Professor Rue, who is here to make some social calls, since there's quite a lot of academics residing here. Turns out the guy he was talking to here created the Master Ball, and he promises to make me one if we bring him the right components. Those were an apple pie, lava cookie, and ice cream cone. Incredibly weird ingredients for a Master Ball, but I'm no expert in crafting balls, so I'm not really going to ask any questions. Inside of the base camp here, there is also a gym, but there's a full-on line outside if you want to get in. Then I had the beautiful idea of defeating all of these Pokemon trainers so that they would have to head to the Pokemon Center and we'd be back in first. That plan worked out perfectly, and the moment we entered the gym, we eavesdrop on a very particular conversation. Apparently, it's not going to take long for the Pokemon League to shut down this gym. They've already taken away a ton of the trainers and even the gym puzzle, but the gym leader Corona is a strong woman that knows there will be more challenges laying ahead for her and that life doesn't end here. So after beating up her last and strongest trainees, we stand eye to eye with her, and we're incredibly lucky because she only has one gym badge left, and in just a week from now, the demolishing crew will come to tear down this building. So we better give her the best battle she's ever had for her very last one. First up is my Noivern against her Toxicroak, an easy win for me as we only need to hit 2 air cutters. But that's when the problems start to arise. She brings out her Annihilate, but we got confused due to swagger. After we hit ourselves in our confusion and get hit with a trash, our Noivern is nearly out for the count. So I decide to swap out and bring in my dog, who can lower this Annihilate's attack by 2 stages with Charm, and he also does a 1/3 of his health and damage with a Spark. A couple more thrashes then take down my dog, but now that he can't hit as hard anymore, I bring in Overkrill and try to take it down with 2 bites. The first one connects, but when I click the second one, she swaps out into Pangoro, who takes 2 more Barb Barrages to the face, and that sends him back to the jungle where he can eat some more bamboo. Annihilate comes back out out, so I swap in Noivern and use Air Cutter to finish it off, but the fight isn't done yet. Her strongest Pokemon, Mega Medicham, is still on the line. I do hit another Air Cutter, but this isn't enough to take it down, and with another Zen Headbutt, we get knocked out of the sky. I then swap in Ampharos, thinking that it could take a hit, but it got critted by a high jump kick, which one-shotted me all the way from full health. So I then sent out my Flying UFO Bug, who would take a Zen Headbutt incredibly well, counter back with that Struggle Bug, and win me the Iron Fist badge, as well as my usual rare shard. Corona thinks this is a fitting end to the gym, and is grateful to leave this place with so many happy memories. We don't have much time to linger around, otherwise we'll be under the rubble of this building, so instead I head to the local graveyard and talk to the groundskeeper Martha. She's also the person the detectives wanted me to talk to about the Dreamstones, so we follow her to her house, where we can talk more discreetly in the company of her Houndstone. First things first, we tell her about Team Somber and how they want to go back in time using the Dreamstone. She thinks this is incredible, but also terrifying at the same time. However, we also tell her about the mysterious stone we brought back from the past, and once we show it to her, she explains that it's actually a Mega Aerodactyl stone, which according to her is a very rare relic. Now, we have seen the past with our own eyes. It's barren, a wasteland, and nothing but chaos and violence back there. These days, we can only recognize it from the Pokemon fossils we find, and this brings her to a very special case of a Pokemon fossil. One that was damaged in ways so horrific, they never even found out what kind of Pokemon could do something like that. They now call this Pokemon the Ancient Terror, because they found an ancient cave painting somewhere inside of Mount Miro, depicting said beast as something incredibly powerful. To this day, they've never been able to resurrect the Pokemon like that, since the fossils are always way too damaged, but this probably explains why Team Somber wants to go into the past, probably to get their hands on the Ancient Terror to rule the region. This is very useful information, but there's still quite a lot of mysteries for us to uncover. But before we hike through the treacherous Mount Miro ourselves, I wanted to check out the local graveyard. That's where we find Cola mourning at some kind of grave, and there's not much coming out of his mouth besides
This. Do you know what happens when you push something too far? I guess you
don't. As he throws out his Pokemon without hesitation, but we quickly see that his Boltund is missing. You see, last time he was scolding at his Boltund for being too weak, which probably means something tragic happened to him while training. And even though this is absolutely terrible and heartbreaking, we still can't let Cola win. First up, we use Night Slash and Facade to take down his Scyther. Then we Air Cutter down his very first Mega Pokemon, Gallade. Ampharos then Trailblazes Duat and Power Gems his final Pokemon, Ceruledge. And with yet another defeated and depressed look on his face, Cola says that he needs to move on and will see us at Mount Miro. Before I joined him over there were a couple of things I needed to do, starting off by finding yet another rare statue, which I used to max out my Overquill's attack. Because this is a cemetery, I knew it was going to be filled with Ghost-type Pokemon, which is a type we don't really have yet and would be nice coverage. So I decided this would be my next shiny hunting spot. And I don't know why, but this took me the longest out of any of them. Around 3,800 encounters, but in my opinion, it was absolutely worth it when I ran into this gold shiny doggy. We all know how overpowered his evolution can be with Last Respects and a Choice Scarf, so I'll gladly take this cute little pupper under my wing. After this, I try to leave town, but get stopped by Martha, who is here to give me a present. I get to pick between like 20 different Megastones, one of them being the Ampharos, which I immediately picked up without hesitation. Following up, I ran into Breach and his Clefable. They just saw some Team Somber grunts running into the cave. Since they want to avoid conflict at all times, they're going to leave the scene before things get heated, but Breach does help me out by giving me a free assault vest. After this, we clear the boulders from the entrance and run into Nurse Joy, who's lost one of her Chanseys. So we agreed to bring it back to her, and she's very lucky that we did, because further up in the cave, we find the same thief that was stealing the necklace from the rich family earlier in our journey, and now he wants to take this Chansey and sell it on the black market. So like last time, we beat him up, bring back the Chansey to Joy, and get ourselves a free Eviolite, and the ability to explore the rest of the cave. That's where my Linoon evolved into the colorful Obstagoon, Tyrant into the blue T-Rex Tyrantrum, and finally the biggest downgrade ever, Graveyard into Houndstone, who goes from gold to brown. I really don't know why Pokemon does this. They have like the perfect shiny and then you just ruin it with an evolution, just like Gibble into Garchomp. Anyway, I start doing strength and ice puzzles after this, and once my brain is totally fried, fried, I start running into some Team Somber grunts, who easily get defeated by my newly evolved Pokemon, which allows us to find a way outside, where we see even more grunts surrounding a gym leader. I really wanted to help this guy out, but he seems to have it covered, so instead I hike up the mountain even more, where we reach Moxy and the rest of his team, who've already set up their machinery to perform experiments on the Dreamstone. The moment they notice me, they go on to say that they are indeed after the Ancient Terror, and that all our meddling with their plans has led to nowhere. Because in that moment, they start up the Dreamalizer and send Admin Malaya back in time while Moxy stays here to slow me down with a battle. He leads off with Morgrim, who immediately sets up the Reflect due to its prankster ability. After this, me and my Houndstone only have to hit 3 play roughs to take it down, but we did also take quite a lot of damage due to Dazzling Gleams. Next up was Honchkrow with the big boss hat. That would normally be easy pickings for my Tyrantrum if I didn't miss one of my Rock Slides, so it would be able to hit 3 Sucker Punches and take me down. However, this was the perfect opportunity to bring in Overquill and use Fell Stinger to finish it off, so that we had +3 in attack. From there on out, I also one-shotted his Galarian Slowking, used Bar Barrage on his Mega Houndoom, which ended up poisoning it. 2 turns later, and the poison damage had done its work, and that's how Moxy got defeated, and all of us got sucked into the Dreamstone's past. This looks quite different from the last time we've been here, with the sand being all blue, and there being quite a lot more space. We quickly run into one of the grunts who's been left behind due to his trekking shoes making him slow. So I try to follow in his footsteps, which leads me to an old temple. Once we make our way all the way to the end of the temple, we meet Kola, the grunt, and Malaya, who are standing in front of an ancient Pokemon. Kola tries to stop them by shouting that the Ace Rookie is here, but Malaya tells him to shut up because it's sleeping, and if it ends up waking up, it could easily wipe us away with one swipe. Malaya then goes on a long rant on how our professor doesn't understand the potential of the Dreamstones, but that Team Somber absolutely does, and they're going to use its power to capture the Ancient Terror right in front of us so they can seize power and control everything. At first, we thought they would never be able to capture this thing, but then Malaya pulls out a Master Ball and enslaves the Ancient Terror in front of our noses. After this, they take the Dreamstone that was behind it and travel back to the past, leaving me and Kola behind. This leaves us stranded in the past. However, we did get one nice thing out of this entire encounter: the trekking shoes that the grunt left behind. This gives us the ability to fall through holes and reach new places, which might be the key to us finding a way out of here. So me and Kola start searching. I couldn't leave this place without yet another souvenir though, and the blue sand wasn't the only special thing around here. There are also 3 different fossil Pokemon available here: Arcan, Amora, and Cranidos. All 3 of which I would have been totally cool with to get as a shiny. I mean, Archeops is arguably the best Generation 5 Pokemon, Cranidos is by far the best Generation 4 fossil, and Aurorus is just beautiful and very underrated. So keep up with me, cause we're running from left to right again. This time I would say it took me around 2,200 encounters to see something sparkle, and boy was I glad to see this huge red forehead on my screen. Cranidos' attack stat is already through the roof, and once I evolved it into Rampardos, I knew it could probably smash down buildings with just one hit of its headbutt. Now that we have him, I moved further through the sands of time until I saw a mysterious lady entering a cave. I tried to keep up with her, and at one moment she took a right turn, but when I followed her, it came out at a dead end with just a rare shard in sight, which means she probably left this behind for us. Who was this mysterious lady, however? Maybe we'll find out in the future. Maybe we don't. I'm just glad she left behind this souvenir for me. A little later on, me and Kola found another Dreamstone, which took us back to the present, and he doesn't seem very happy about it, blaming me for coming too late at the Ancient Terror incident, because if we had been by his side, he easily would have been able to take down Malaya, and according to him, now their plans are going to succeed due to me. Even after all of this, I still tell Kola about the mysterious lady we saw, and that it might actually be Professor Tennibris, who's been sent back to the past by Team Somber, but he doesn't believe a word that I'm saying. She couldn't survive for so long without any food or water, so he's going to tell all of my treacherous lies and fuck-ups to the detectives, like the little jealous snitch he is. And because he thinks that he has the authority over me, he also throws me off of the entire Dreamstone case. So now we only have one more thing to do, and that is to try and complete our gym challenge while they deal with Team Somber. I bet that's going to turn out great for them, but I don't care anymore. I tell Vanille, the local gym leader, that we're ready to challenge him, and him and his Manectric are looking forward to testing their strength against me. The cool thing about this gym and entire town is that it lies into a cave and is called Winter Lily Hollow. People quite literally live in rocky, non-assembled houses and are somehow surviving in this harsh environment. Despite being able to mine out ancient stones, there's not all that much to do here, so without any more screwing about, let's head to the gym. Turns out we actually needed those climbing shoes to get into the gym in the first place because we needed to fall through a hole. This then led us into this sort of factory area where we had to open doors with switches and run over electrical cables, all while not getting electrocuted so that we could eventually reach Vanille. If all of this didn't already hint you at the typing he's working with, it is obviously going to be electric, and his lead is the flashing bird Kilowattrel. Our Ampardo still doesn't have a physical rock type move, so we're still stuck with ancient power for now, but that turns out to be enough, because after hitting 2 of them, the bird gets KO'd. Yes, we did get hit with 2 uproars, but that didn't do all that much damage. His Toxtricity then finished me off with a discharge, so I brought in my dog and used Dig to break through his Swagger's confusion and kill him in one shot. Next up was his Lantern. We didn't really have anything to deal with this fish, so I guess it was time for me to use Mega Ampharos for the first time, spamming Power Gem and Trailblaze for dozens of turns in a row while tanking flails left, right, and center until we came out on top, which left him with just Mega Manectric. So I bring out my Tyrantrum because it's part Dragon type, so we can tank a couple of hits. It uses Charge to power up his next Electric type move, which turns out to be Discharge, but in the process it doesn't kill me and we're still able to hit 2 Rock Slides. We aren't able to take it out with my T-Rex though, as we get discharged yet again. This turns my Tyrantrum back into a fossil, so we're forced to send in Obstagoon. 1 Gooning session and Night Slash later, and boom, the Charge badge is ours. This means we just need 2 more badges to complete our entirety of 8, and because we don't really have anything else to do, he decides to send me over to Janaya, who helped us out with the Sharpedo incident earlier, because now we can finally use Surf to traverse the ponds and rivers, allowing us to reach her gym. The sail over there was quite long, so long in fact that we even ran into our next shiny Pokemon without even searching for it. A shiny that I'd personally never seen before, or at least forgotten about, as I had no idea that shiny Masquerain ended up being green. And yes, I know it's not the best Pokemon, but I was quite excited for it, all because of its special ability Intimidate, which can of course lower the opponent's attack just like my Overquill can. So Masquerain here is highly welcome in the squad. As I was sailing down even more rivers, I ran into a little side cave. This is where Janaya trapped the Mega Sharpedo together with her Pokemon so that it couldn't get out and cause more trouble. Perfect timing, because this also notifies her that we actually want to go and challenge her at her gym right now. So we travel there together and head inside so I can start her puzzle, which consists of water currents that I need to navigate so that I can eventually reach her. But along the way, we run into a familiar face. It's Gabrielle, who has also started her very own gym challenge, because she's trying to better her life by taking me on as a role model, as she also wants to become Pokemon champion, which is quite nice to see because now we finally have a rival that doesn't hate my guts. However, she also wants to get this gym badge before me, so I guess we have to battle to see who goes first. She leads off with her Hisuian Zoroark disguised as a Mawile, and because I thought it was a Mawile, I brought in my Houndstone, who ended up being blasted by a Shadow Ball, so I was forced to bring out Overquill, who killed it with a single bite. Next up was Claydol, who I also hit with a bite and a Fell Stinger to drastically boost my attack while tanking an Earth Power. Hakamo'o then got one-shot by a Barbarage, and the final Pokemon Mawile got flinched by a bite, so the second one ended it off. Now that we've won the race, we get to challenge Janaya, who boosts the power of her Water-type team with her Drizzling Pelipper. My newly acquired Masquerain wasn't the best matchup here, so I swapped out into my Bolt Hunt, who took it down with a single Spark. Next up was Toedscruel, not a Water-type at all, but hey, maybe she mistook it for a Tentacruel. So I brought in Masquerain, thinking that we could easily win this with some Bug Buzzes, but we ended up getting put to sleep with a Spore. I thought my Bug was easily going to wake up, but that didn't end up happening, and 3 hexes later marked the end of the line for her. So I sent out my UFO, who hit a Struggle Bug but also got put to sleep, but this time I wouldn't make the same mistake. I'd swap out into my Petalil, who hadn't had a lot of action in a while because I couldn't find a Sunstone. However, it survived a Seed Bomb, counterback with a Giga Drain, and that was Toedscruel down. The following 2 Pokemon, Clawitzer and Toxapex, both got KO'd by my Ampharos's Trailblazes and Discharges, and while we were able to hit yet another one on her final Pokemon, Mega Gyarados, this wasn't enough and an Aqua Tail finished me off. So hilariously, I sent out the tiny little Grass Petal again, used Giga Drain, and ended off the big water Leviathan. She then hands me the River Badge, but also the HM for Wave Crash. This will allow us to go over currents without being actually taken into them, so no more water puzzles for me. After that, I headed outside outside and talk to Janaya. She's also heading out to Rivet Shore City because every single gym leader inside of the region has been called there for some kind of intervention. My Spider-Man tingle says that it's probably got something to do with Team Somber, but unfortunately we're still off the case. Gabrielle, however, says that this doesn't matter, something like that shouldn't stop me from helping out others, and so she urges me to join her to Rivet Shore City so we can find out more about what's happening. A short surf later and we already arrived there. Gabrielle has already done some investigating and knows that all the gym leaders have gathered around the harbor because they're planning to sail somewhere east from here with a cruise ship. She's already managed to acquire tickets for herself, but when we try to get some of our own, we hear that they're sold out, so we'll have to find another way to get on that boat. So I started searching around the city for clues and found many useful things like a shop with great TMs, a side quest where I had to bring some kids a game console called the Pocket Boy, and on top of this, the CEO of a construction company lost his dear berserker called Percy and wants me to bring it back for a special reward. After this, we see some of the gym leaders, Cola, and the detectives grouped up at the harbor discussing their plans. They've just found a massive uptick in geological activity recorded by the Ranger Institute, who say that the heat signatures were off the charts, almost like there was a local drought going on somewhere. And that can only mean one thing. It must be Team Somber releasing the Ancient Terror. They were located on an uncharted island off the coast further east from here, but they can't leave until all the other gym leaders arrive. And because Cola has already defeated all the gym leaders, they highly respect him and decide to send him all in alone until the rest of them arrives to give him backup. With that, he and the two detectives leave on their speedboat, while the gym leaders are forced to wait around for the remaining three who haven't arrived yet. The local leader, Razi, has his gym set up in the quarry, so he'll be waiting around there, which allows us to go and challenge him. But he wasn't the only thing that was important in the quarry. I ended up finding the lost berserker that was being attacked by a Mimikyu, so after we saved him, he ran back to his trainer, the CEO. On top of this, we also had a guy here that was giving me a free pocket boy if we managed to get a high score of 1, which was quite easy considering this is basically just Flappy Bird but with a Butterfree. I then turned in both quests and got a red card and Poke Flute as my 2 rewards. With that out of the way, I went back to the quarry, which was actually kind of hard to navigate because there's this huge horde of Aeron that are just running in circles the whole time and you need to get past them at the right moment. And sometimes they even got stuck in place, which was quite frustrating. It really feels like you have to make your way through a crowded city or festival, which is something I already despise doing myself. With much determination, however, we made it through and stood eye to eye with the 8th gym leader, Razi. He's impressed to see that we've made it this far, and just when we're about to clash, he gets a call. He needs to go back to the boat, so our battle is going to be postponed until he gets back. Little did he know that we're already planning on joining him, because I found myself a supply dock that was being guarded by a slacking, so I used my newly acquired Poke Flute on it to wake it up so I could get past it and hide myself in one of the containers. Then we would be put into the cargo hold of the ship, and once we were fully on board and the ship sailed away, we broke out. Here we had to avoid a couple of workers so they wouldn't know that we were a stowaway, and once we made it to the public areas, we were home free. I started roaming around the ship and saw that there were so many familiar faces on here. Gabrielle, Breach and his Clefable, and even the painter we helped out earlier. So if we ever got into a fight, we would have backup, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Because Razi is also on this boat, and once I confronted him, he tries to bring me down by saying that somebody like me shouldn't have been on a case that important anyway. We have no experience, our Pokemon journey only started a couple of weeks ago, and we should just let them handle it. And I'm going to make him swallow those words, because we're having our final gym battle right here, right now. He starts off with his Alolan Duck Trio, so I swap in Masquerain and use 2 Giga Drains to bring it down to red health. Just when I'm about to hit the 3rd, however, he swaps into Skarmory. So I send out Mega Ampharos and try to hit the Thunderbolt, but he has another ground type waiting for me as he cancels it out with Excadrill. I send in Overquill because I want to keep my Ampharos alive, but he's able to set up a Swords Dance. I still go for the Crunch, expecting an Earthquake, but luckily he just has Dig, which I can then cancel out with Masquerain, but we get buried under a Rockalanche the turn after. The battle from here on out only became harder because he was also able to outspeed my Overquill, which forced me into sacking off Orbeetle and Obstagoon. I then brought in Houndstone, which is something I should have done from the start, who tanked the hit and killed it with last respects. His incoming Colossal then set up some Stealth Rocks, but I was still able to take it down with a Dig and last respects before Duck Trio shook my dog with an Earthquake. I then sent out my Mega Ampharos, tanked an Earth Power, and hit a Trailblaze to boost my speed and take take it down. Skarmory then gets electrocuted by a Thunderbolt, and his last Pokemon, Mega Aggron, couldn't take me down with a single takedown, so we proceeded to hit 2 more Thunderbolts, which granted me the win and my final badge. The moment he hands it over, the captain also announces something over the speaker, that they're going to board at an unscheduled stop, which is the gym leader's cue to get out and onto the mysterious island. Rosie tells me that we're not prepared to take on what's coming next, so that we should stay on the ship, so me, Gabriella, and Breach all meet up together. First, they lay both of their differences aside because they used to have some beef with each other, but Breach understands that Gabriella has taken a different path in life. Then we hatch our escape plan, literally by breaking open the hatch of the ship and sneaking out onto the remote islands. Gabriella will stay on the boat so nobody follows us, and Breach will guard the entrance. But we're not free to go and help out the gym leaders yet. They're patrolling all of the islands, and every time they spot you, they send you back to the ship. Luckily, my 99 sneak in Skyrim has learned me quite a lot, so we sneak past all of them and make our way to the place where Team Somber was seen last. Of course, we ran into Moxy here, who according to his intel knew that we were already off the case and we're only going to have to deal with Cola. They still kept me in mind, however, hence why him and Malaya are here to ambush me, and they're going to do everything in their power to stop me from reaching that third and final Dreamstone up ahead. Just when they're about to strike, however, Cola comes up thinking that I have some help and backup on my side. But the moment he lays eyes on all of us, he just runs past and goes straight for the Dreamstone like a coward, knowing that I'll be keeping these 2 goons busy, whether I come out alive or not. So we have no choice but to defeat these 2 right here, right now. So first up was Moxy. So I used my Noivern to take down his Grimmsnarl and Great Tusk. Overquill then used Crunch and Barbarage to take down Honchkrow and Slow King. Last up was Mega Houndoom, who died to a rock slide, and we're already on to Melia. First up, Rampardos deals with Fluttermane. Then it becomes really easy. I send out Ampharos and click Thunderbolt on every single one of her team members for a mega sweep. But Malaya is not giving up yet. She revives her Absol and uses it to destroy everything around here, including the rocks, so we can't get to her anymore. With this path blocked off, we need to find another way, and just when we're about to do so, the mysterious lady that we saw in the past pops up from the water. She says she remembers signing off on our application, and says that it's long overdue, but would love to welcome me to the Tennibris lab, because this is indeed Professor Tennibris. She's been hiding away in ancient Cormoria, but Team Somber found the Dreamstones, and so all of her efforts were wasted. But she's been watching me. I've been an incredible research assistant, putting my life on the line to try and stop Team Somber. She finds it very commendable. And now it's time for her to explain everything. She already had suspicions that she was being spied on, hence why she went to the past to hide the Dreamstones, thinking that this would be enough to stop whoever was behind her, but that clearly wasn't the case. Someone in Team Somber had their eyes on the Dreamstone from the very beginning, and now she knows why. Due to the ancient terror and its ability called Orichalcum Pulse, which calls forth sunlight, so harsh that its impact can be felt throughout an entire region. Because before she actually came here, there was nothing here. They used Orichalcum Pulse to dry up a part of the sea, and now we have to try and stop them, but she knows she can do it on her own, and neither can my ace rookie friend. The only one that can put an end to Team Somber is me, and with the professor finally being one of the first ones that fully believes in me, I start to think that we might actually be able to do this. So we tell her that we're going to stop Team Somber, and that's when she takes me into the sea, gives me some scuba gear, and now we can swim up to the island and attack Team Somber from underneath. We came just in time as Cola got defeated, and Team Somber and their admins are laughing in his face. The moment we arrive, we see that they've also gotten to Rue, and so Tennibris asks if he's okay, but Cola says that we've got it all wrong. Rue is the mastermind behind the entirety of Team Somber. He was a spy from the start, just trying to get to the professor's research, with his only goal being ruling over the entire region. He even tricked the detectives into sending some inexperienced little kid on the hunt for the Dreamstones, knowing how easy it would be for him to stop me and Cola if it ever came down to it. Setting all of us up over 100 times, even getting that Master Ball under our noses, without me even thinking that he could be using it for something evil. And now he's finally had enough of all of our meddling. He's going to use the Ancient Terror to end us off right here, right now, so we better defend our friends in this clash that has so much on the line. So I throw out my Tyrantrum against this Toadscruel and use Ice Fang to one-shot it. Next up would be his Metagross, the one we saw in the lab at the start. And he even has the ability to Mega Evolve it, but nothing like that is enough if you're gonna miss 2 Meteor Mashes against my Obstagoon, who would lower its defense with Obstruct and then kill it with 2 more Night Slashes. Next up would be his Ancient Roaring Moon, who is up against my Noivern. Somehow we tank a Dragon Claw with 10 HP remaining, and because we're faster, we get off 2 Dragon Pulses and blast it away. Next up would be Spiritomb, who cut its own HP in half with Curse. That left it as a really easy target for my Mega Ampharos to one-shot it with Dazzling Gleam. Now, one more Pokemon remains, the Ancient Terror itself. It uses its sharp Dragon Claw to clean up my Ampharos like it was nothing. Somehow it would even outspeed my fastest Pokemon Noivern and finish it off with a Flamethrower. This left me with not a lot of hope of us winning this fight, but I wasn't going to stop trying. So I sent out Overquill and used a Barbarage, getting the clutch poison on it as well. Yes, we would get taken out the turn after, but this oversized lizard is now on a timer. We just need to try and stall it out somehow. I sent out Rampardos, who immediately got one-shot, leaving me only with Tyrantrum. I didn't have a lot of faith in my blue T-Rex, but against all the odds, he survived a collision course with 11 HP, hit the Dragon Claw, and took down the Ancient Terror. Rue can't believe that he just lost to a research associate. All of his plans and dreams go up in flames, just like that. His 2 admins try to calm him down by getting him out of here, but he's too mad. And so he orders the Ancient Terror to bring the Dreamstone to him, to try it all over again. But that's when Breach's Clefable comes walking up and steals the Dreamstone from under our noses with its obsessed little hands, and lobs it straight into the water. In that moment, the detectives arrive on their speedboat, and while the 2 admins are able to escape, Professor Rue gets captured by them, and he'll be going to jail for a very long time. A couple of days later, after everything has calmed down, we go back to the professor's lab to meet up with her and the detectives. Each and every one of us is so happy that this case is finally closed and the region is safe, and the professor is going to hold on to the Ancient Terror so that she can study it. Everybody is so proud of me, and the detectives even apologize for taking me off of the case. We decide to forgive them because they were just following the orders of the Ace Rookie. All of this ended off really great, but our story isn't over yet. Before we can join the lab and become a full-on research assistant, we still need to conquer one more thing: this year's Pokemon Championship. We'll have to make our way through Victory Cape if we even want to reach it, and as a little thank you gift, the professor gives me the HM for Waterfall, which we need to even cross it. After this, we wave them goodbye and go on our final journey, battling many trainers, traversing hard terrains, but ultimately arriving safe at the championship site. First thing I did was going to the shops here to get myself some nice DMs and a couple of focus sashes. Then I went to the local hotel to teach my Noivern Draco Meteor, and we also witnessed a pretty weird event. Moxy and Malaya were in Cola's room. The reason? They were trying to give him an ancient Pokemon so that he could take us down in the tournament. But Cola, despite being a dickhead, still has his morals. He's not going to work together with these criminals. He's going to prove that he can beat me with his own Pokemon, which is very noble. But to be completely honest, I still hate his guts and will destroy him the moment I lay eyes on him. So with that out of the way, let's enter this 32-man tournament, where we do indeed need to go through 4 rounds if we want to get into the finals. With the first one being against Chara, who has a bone to pick with me, because apparently we've been going around the region beating her up multiple times, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember her face. So she must not be all that strong. She did indeed make me swallow those words by immediately sending out an Ursaluna. It's so strong in fact that it can easily take down my Noivern with 2 Thrashes, because it was able to survive the 2 Hurricanes that I hit. After this, I did manage to take it down with a Night Slash from Obstagoon, and then she proceeded to send out her Fortress, who got Thunderbolted twice by my Mega Ampharos, which led her into her Galarian Typhlosion. It certainly tried to do something with its flamethrowers and even managed to burn me, but that wasn't enough to save it from 2 of my Power Gems. Barraskewda then came out, so I sent out Overquill to cripple its attack with Intimidate, and then ate it up with 2 more Crunches. The last Pokemon on our team was a Mega Altaria who used Sky Attack, which meant that it was just a sitting duck for a full turn, which allowed Overquill to pierce it with 2 more Barbarages. First battle 1, onto the round of 16. This is where we face Stanja, a bug maniac that we've apparently also beat already on our journey. Again, I do not remember this guy whatsoever, so let's just wipe him off the field. He leads off with the very annoying Cormoria that sets up stealth rocks and toxic spikes, but I still one-shot it with Tyrantrum's Earthquake. Switching is definitely not the smartest play on my end anymore, but I still bring out my Noivern against his Amoonguss. We immediately get put to sleep with a Spore, but I know this stupid oversized mushroom can't kill me, with the evidence being clear as he just starts spamming Solar Beam that barely does any damage. Eventually we snap out and kill it with a couple more Hurricanes. My Ampharos deals with his Toxapex by using Thunderbolts, and his last two Pokemon, Scolipede and Mega Pinsir, both get buried under my Tyrantrum's Rock Slides. Round of 16 done and dusted, on to the last 8. That's where we see Berger and his stupid Avalugg, who broke one of the ancient statues at the start of our journey. I still haven't forgiven him for this, but I must commend that they've definitely come far. But this is where their journey ends. He seems to be running a snow-related team, starting off with an Alolan Ninetales that moonblasts my Tyrantrum back to the Stone Age. So I then proceeded to send out Overquill, who can survive 2 Moonblasts and use Barbarach 3 times in a row to clean it up. However, it was still able to set up an Aurora Veil, which is going to up its defenses by quite a bit. Next up is Baxcalibur, who can tank a Draco Meteor from my Noivern. After this, it hits an Ice Beam thinking that it has won, but that's definitely not the case. Because of our Focus Sash, we survive on 1 HP and can kill it the turn after with Dragon Pulse. Tinkaton then gets sent out, who gets paralyzed by my Ampharos. But because it's a fairy type, I'm forced to swap out sooner rather than later. So I send out Houndstone and use Dig and Last Respects to clean it up. Next on the list is Galarian Rapidash, who also gets one-shot by Last Respects, and this leaves just his ace, Avalugg. I then hit a Last Respects and swap in Ampharos after dying. Somehow this big chunk of ice is faster than me and kills me with just 1 Mountain Gale, so I send out Obstagoon to hit a couple of Night Slashes before I also go down to Double Edge. This did enough damage for me to bring out Noivern again, and with one last Draco Meteor, this statue destroying annoyance gets a piece of its own cake. This leads us into the semi-finals where we face none other than one of our best friends, Gabrielle. After all of the hardships she's been through, I'm really glad to see that she stands here proud as a changed woman. But even though we've been through so much together, this doesn't mean we're going to go easy on her. Let's get started. She leads off with her Claydol, who sets up the Stealth Rock against my Tyrantrum. 2 Ice Fangs later, however, and we're already on to her second Pokemon, Como. I bring in Obstagoon to hit a very hard-hitting Double Edge, but 2 Clanging Scales also finish me off. All of this also lowered its defenses by quite a lot. Due to all the damage we just did, I can safely bring in Noivern, outspeed, and kill with Dragon Pulse, which forces out her Milotic. I thought Ampharos would be the perfect counter here, but she kept on healing up with Recover and boosting her special defense and special attack with Calm Mind, all while confusing me with Confuse Ray. So while we might have brought it down to red health, in the end its Burning Scalds were too much for my Electric Dragon. Now that it basically has no HP left though, we can bring in Overquill and kill it with a Fell Stinger to boost our attack by 3 stages yet again. This gives us a huge advantage against the last 2 Pokemon, Zoroark and Mega Wawile, as we can take the first one down with a crunch and do decent damage on the second one as well, before being finished off by Focus Blast and Play Rough. I then send out my Houndstone, who is able to tank a Sucker Punch, hit the Last Respects, and finish off Gabrielle. She wishes me one last portion of luck because we are indeed in the finals. And as we step up to the arena filled with thousands of people, we are eye to eye with no one else but our rival and the ace detective that's been trying to stop us from the start, Cola. Apparently, Cola ended up getting the credit for stopping Team Somber and saving the region, but he knows that I'm the one who did it all. And when he looks me in the eyes, it's like he sees everything he's missing. Everything he deserves but doesn't have. And even despite all of this, he's still standing here, and now he's going to get what he deserves by beating me in front of all these people. But I've been waiting for this moment, ready to crush him where he stands, because his self-centered monologue has just showed me that he's not changed one bit from when we met him. I start off by taking down his Hisuian Samurott with my Ampharos' Thunderbolt and Trailblades. Next up is his Mega Gallade, who takes a Dazzling Gleam and then proceeds to take me down with a Drain and Fire Punch. I then swap in Noivern, take a Shadow Sneak, and slash it up with some air. He then brings out Cleavor, and I make the dumbest move ever, forgetting that my Obstagoon is weak to Bug type, so we get destroyed by a single X-Scissor. No matter, because I bring in Overquill and use a Crunch combined with 2 Fell Stingers to take it down, and bring out my most devastating combo, his +3 attack boost. With that, we can one-shot his Aegislash with a Crunch, and even bar barrage his Togekiss, leaving him only with his starter, Ceruledge, who can outspeed and take down my Pufferfish with Bitter Blade. It's definitely not going down without a fight, because I thought, hey, maybe Tyrantrum can kill it with an Earthquake, but it brought out a close combat, killing me in just 1 hit. So now we only have 2 Pokemon left as I bring out my Noivern and hit the Draco Meteor. Not even this was enough to kill it, but its Shadow Sneak didn't do enough damage, so we could hit a second one to crush Cola once and for all and prove everybody that didn't believe in me wrong. But I don't think the story of Pokemon Dreamstone Mysteries is over, because we get a hint at a sequel where Professor Roo calls up Cola, probably ready to strike a deal for his next nefarious plan. But until then, we're going to celebrate how I became champion of the Cormoria region with only shiny Pokemon. I personally think Dreamstone Mysteries deserves an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this game so much. The story kept me hooked. The region was designed incredibly well. The characters were interesting. And despite not really breaking away from the regular Pokemon formula or assets, I still think it's worth your time if you're looking for something new, fun, and not too complicated to play. Now, with all of that out of the way, I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters as always. You guys help me out so much, and if you'd want to sign up yourself, you can click the links in the description to do so. There's a few perks you get, like being named after Pokemon, getting shoutouts like these, and you get a cool icon and some emojis that you can use in the comments. Now, with all of that out of the way, I've been Zwiggo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.